Welcome back to the Sean Leslie Show. I'm Dave Sheldon here on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you for taking the time out to join us. And again, if you want to kick into the program, head to Twitter at CKNW and give us your comments there. Michael Gray just put one up, and it says, to help the victims of the 7.9 magnitude earthquake in Nepal, go to Red Cross Canada website to donate, and he has the link there. So thank you for that, Michael. We'll have that on our Facebook page as well. So thank you to Michael for that. All right, let's get into it now. Medical marijuana. It's an interesting conversation this past week publicly between the mayor of Vancouver, Gregor Robertson, and Health Minister Rona Ambrose, talking about what side of the marijuana debate they want to come down on. Rona Ambrose saying that the ability for Vancouver to regulate what is going on with medical marijuana contravenes what's going on with Health Canada, whereas the mayor says we're doing this regulation because we know there's a vacuum in the system right now. Joining me to have a conversation about this is the former Attorney General of British Columbia, and of course he's now with Boughton Law, Wally Opel. Thank you very much for taking the time out today, Mr. Opel.
Always be good to be with you, Dave.
Oh, thank you very much. It's an interesting conversation, isn't it? I mean, really, Rona Ambrose talking about the fact that this kind of regulation of what's going on is a cause for concern, isn't it?
Well, it really is interesting as to what's happening. You know, I understand the frustration of the city, but having said that, it's clear that the possession, cultivation, and ingestion of marijuana, the trafficking is still very much illegal in this country and has been since 1923. And there hasn't been any change in that except for certain medical purposes. And in July 2013, the federal government brought in guidelines and regulations as to how people can access and how they can grow or produce medical marijuana. And it's certain licensed salespeople, licensed producers and marketers that are in a position to do that. But it's only a restricted number of people that can do it. And see, what's happened over the years, Dave, is that since the 1960s and the era of the counterculture, more and more people have smoked marijuana, and the result is that the policing authorities have generally thrown their arms up in the air and have really done nothing about it. They say it isn't worth their time to be enforcing all the laws regarding marijuana. So the result is now simple possession is not really prosecuted or enforced. So the federal government in 2000, as a result of a court case, was mandated to produce some kind of regulation and laws as far as medical marijuana is concerned, because there has been considerable evidence to indicate that medical marijuana is necessary for many people who are suffering from various illnesses.
Do you see this heading to court? I mean, do you see the city sounds like they're set in their ways? The language being used, think twice. You've not overthought this at all. I mean, you're getting it from both sides. Do you see this eventually becoming pushed to shove in court?
It appears that way, Dave, and I say that because I think I agree with the minister, Rona Ambrose, when she says, it's still illegal to possess marijuana in Canada, and the act is quite clear, and it's only up to the federal government as the only legislative body that can change that. Now, you can't simply set up marijuana dispensaries unless there are strict regulations and guidelines, and the federal government decides who gets to sell, produce, and market this stuff. So it's up to them to decide that. Now, the city has the legal obligation and right to regulate businesses. So the real issue here is the city within its right to regulate a business that may on its surface be illegal? And that's what the minister is saying here. The minister is telling the city that this is illegal, that you can't sell marijuana. So if you're going to regulate those businesses, in effect what you're doing is you're regulating businesses that are selling illegal products.
It's a really interesting conversation. Wally Opel is my guest right now. We're talking about the medical marijuana debate that is coming down between the federal government and the city of Vancouver who wants to regulate medical marijuana shops in their locale, and the health minister, Rona Ambrose, has said this is illegal. Is it as simple as that? Is it as simple as we're enforcing the law? We're just going to say, no, you can't do it, and why are we having the conversation?
Well, it is illegal. There's no doubt about that. It is illegal. What's really happened over the years, as I said a moment ago, is that we have generally in our society accepted the fact that marijuana is okay to use. But you know what? It's still illegal. And you can't get around that until the government of Canada decides otherwise. We've had various inquiries and commissions over the years. The Ledane Commission in 1973 said it should be decriminalized, and we've had many of those conversations, but in fact it's never happened.
Do you think that the city of Vancouver might be getting ahead of themselves? And I'm not going to say that they're predicting the outcome of the next federal election by any stretch of the imagination, but the Liberal government has said that they would decriminalize marijuana if they were to get into power. I mean, would this not be getting ahead of the situation? Although I think it might be a little bit ambitious at this point because the Tories are still in power.
Well, absolutely, you're right, Dave. It's the federal government that decides whether or not the substance can be decriminalized or made legal. And the city can't really do that. The city can only regulate businesses within its jurisdiction, but can't do anything more than that. So what the city really needs to do is get some kind of a green light from the federal government. And the federal government has been somewhat flexible in that they have licensed certain types of medical marijuana producers. There aren't that many, but if you go to Health Canada, they have the jurisdiction, and the sole jurisdiction, to decide who produces medical marijuana. And the city or the province really can't do anything about that.
Do you think they could take that internal? And again, I'm just spitballing here, but at the same time, if they find themselves in a licensing issue where the city says, well, because you're licensing people, we're going to regulate them based upon a licensing within the city, could Health Canada just say, you know what, we're not going to license anyone, we'll just do it ourselves through Health Canada, and we'll set up the dispensaries and go from there? I mean, that's a lot of cash to put in play, but at the same time, it might eliminate this regulatory BS that we're going through.
Well, there's no doubt that the power and the authority in this lies with the federal government. But, you know, the people who really are legally exposed here are the individual shopkeepers who are selling the stuff. And they're the ones that can be prosecuted if they haven't gone through the proper hoops and don't have the appropriate licenses. They're the ones that really are exposed here.
What would you do if you were in Rona Ambrose's situation? Would you try and affect the change even more so than what she's doing? What would you do?
Well, I think Rona Ambrose is doing the right thing, and she's reminding us all that, you know, let's not get ahead of ourselves. That the law is clear; it's been there for many, many years. It is unlawful to possess or traffic or import or grow marijuana unless you do it under certain prescribed circumstances. So she's absolutely right in that. It would be up to her government or any other federal government to make changes.
Now, if you're going to, let's turn the hat on the other side for a second and say that you're providing counsel for the city of Vancouver, which you're clearly not in this case, but just hypothetically speaking, if you're going to fortify that position, what are you telling the city?
Well, I think the city has to wait until there's some kind of sanction from the federal government regarding the legalization. I think that's fairly clear. It is illegal to traffic, to grow, to cultivate, or to possess marijuana. That's the law. And I fully understand the position that the city's in, and they've got a proliferation of these businesses that have grown around us, and so they want to license and regulate them and to ensure that if we have them within our jurisdiction and our boundaries, that they follow certain regulations. So that's what the city wants to do. But the starting point still is it's the federal government that decides this, and the federal government has made it quite clear that this is illegal.
Do you see this as thumbing the nose by the city at the federal government by saying, you know what, we don't believe in what you're trying to put forward here, so we're going to fight this and try and win brownie points with the community for doing that?
Oh, I'm not going to guess there, Dave. The the city's doing what they think
Sure.
is right, and I agree with the statements made by Minister Ambrose, and I also understand the frustration in the city. But the city can't get ahead of itself the way they appear to be.
Wally, I really appreciate taking the time out this afternoon and talking about this topic. Always a pleasure to have you on the air.
Okay, nice to talk to you, Dave.
Thank you. That's Wally Opal. We'll take a break, come back with more of the Sean Leslie Show. Your thoughts coming up next. I want to hear what you have to say.